Minnesota Wild have had some breaking news today. They have fired head coach Dean Evason and assistant coach Bob Woods in a move that we expected to happen at some point. It has finally been happening, and we have some major news to go over covering this in this video. Before we get into this, though, we noticed that 83% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. So if you're looking for a spot to get all your news around the NHL and around the rest of the league, you're in the right spot. Make sure to stay a while, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the breaking news. But like I said, major news coming out of Minnesota here. Dean Evason has been fired, a move that we kind of expected to happen at this point in the season. Yeah. He's been having no success, neither of the Minnesota Wild so far this year, and, they really haven't in past years either, getting eliminated in the first round pretty much, the last 10 years. It kind of sucks being a Minnesota fan, but it had to come down to some point. News broke from Michael Russo on Twitter, obviously. Fired head coach Dean Evason and Bob Woods, and he later tweeted he's replaced by John Hynes, former head coach of the Nashville Predators. Now, let's just going to talk here, Noah, about the Dean Evason firing first and the Bob Woods. Like I said, it was bound to happen. I didn't know if it was going to happen sooner or later, but if this continued, which it has, and now it's finally been done, Dean Evason's gone. What do you think about it? Obviously, it's something that was looking like it was going to happen at some point.
Well, I for sure thought they would have made changes on the players before they fired Dean Evason. He was probably, who was their last coach before Dean Evason? Was it Boudreau?
Yeah, he replaced Bruce Boudreau in the 18-19 season.
Okay, yeah.
Or no, 1920.
And ever since, Dean Evason came there, I thought Minnesota kind of had a new sort of aura, I guess is the best way to put around them. I always find the Wild have always been like kind of middle of the pack kind of team. But when Dean Evason came there, I thought they kind of like it lit a fire under their ass. They liked playing for him. It seemed like they clicked, but they could never get it done in the playoffs. They've been a first round exit pretty much their entire existence.
Yep.
So they did have to make a change at some point, but I'm a little bit shocked that it was Dean Evason's job.
Yeah, the Wild made some moves over the past season and a bit. Some moves that they kind of had to make along the way. Some moves that they were extending players, but they never really made a shocking move, a blockbuster move. But Dean Evason was one part of this team that I think was movable. He was definitely a very good coach. He was hard on the players, but not in a bad way. He was very stern. He got to the point. You knew what you wanted from him, and he made that clear. But honestly, I'm really surprised that it wasn't a different option. I knew that Minnesota could have made some moves, but nothing they really could have done majorly in the cap struggle they're in right now. That's another reason why I'm kind of surprised that it was him. I kind of suggested or thought about it as, at some point, let the rebuild happen. Or not the rebuild, but accept the tank. Because with the cap right now, there's not much we can do. We're kind of going downhill. So, I kind of figured if we start tanking the season, it is what it is at this point. We're not too far yet, but, being, I think, 29th out of 32 in the league, it's not ideal.
It's not great.
And moving on to John Hynes here now. Once again, he would have been this year if he's still the coach of the Nashville Predators, still in his final year of that contract. But he was fired, and now is the head coach of the Minnesota Wild. This is kind of a move that I don't really know about. He's a very mid-tier coach, I will be honest. Him and Dean Evason, kind of the same skill level. Now, a lot of people will probably disagree with this, but I much would have rather Jay Woodcroft. He's definitely didn't work out in Edmonton this year, but he has before. He's coached, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and just because he didn't work in Edmonton doesn't mean he wouldn't work in Minnesota. I think it was definitely a bolder choice after what's happened this year, but I think he's still one of the better coaches in the league. May have had some help from his players, but it's still I still wish I would have had from this Minnesota Wild
That's
team.
A hot take.
Yeah,
that's a bit of a hot one there.
It is, yeah.
I think Jay Woodcroft is just Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl made Jay Woodcroft's job that much easier anyway. But I don't understand the John Hynes hiring either, to be honest with you. He's kind of and everywhere he's coached. He coached New Jersey for I think 7 or 8 years. They made the playoffs, got eliminated round 1 every year. Not much different than the whole theme with the Wild, sorry. But, I don't think he's necessarily the right man for the job. He did have a really good year with Nashville. I think they had like 45 wins there a couple years ago, but they got bounced round one. Just in a common theme that I keep talking about. So I don't know. I do like the idea of bringing in an offensively minded coach, like you said with Jay Woodcroft, but I don't think John Hynes or Jay Woodcroft would have been the answer.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really any solid options available right now. Not saying that someone out of the blue could have came in and, turned this team around, because that certainly could have happened, but out of the options they had at hand right away, I don't think there was too many solid ones, but we do know the reason why Dean Evason was fired. I think that's no surprise to anybody at this point, Last 10, they're 2-6-2 with 7 straight losses, a horrible streak in Sweden where they had there a couple weeks ago. And, it kind of stemmed from just before that. And, at no point this season did they have any success at all. None of the players, Kirill Kaprizov is not acting like he should. Matt Boldy, is like, the same as Kirill Kaprizov. And everybody's just frustrated. That's been proven throughout the rest of the games that they've played this season. It's been very tough to just going from, a playoff team to just being horrible this year. And, so it was no surprise really at all. But Dean Evason, like I said, he was a coach for a long time, was an assistant coach before he was the head coach, promoted mid-season in the 1920 season, and from there he was head coach on. And you can see, though, the years that he was a head coach, even the assistant coach, we really had no playoff success. We were just enough to get into the playoffs, but nothing ever came out of it. So Dean Evason, he was a solid coach, and I really liked Dean Evason. He was very hard on guys when they weren't doing the right things. I've never seen that man smile, to be honest with you. I've seen his face red as anything, and with no smile and just screaming. And that's the kind of coach I like. That's the kind of I think that's why I like Dean Evason so much. And it kind of hurts to see him go, but it had to happen. It's something that was bound to happen, and it did finally. I guess that's just to rip the Band-Aid off, and I guess we can only really see from here how good John Hynes is, or how bad. I'm not saying he's going to turn this team around, but we never know.
Do you think with like a new face behind the bench, and obviously they're going to have to hire a new assistant coach as well because their assistant coach is gone, being with like the whole new faces there and whole new systems and sort of how everything is integrated, I guess. Do you think the Wild kind of step back and say, okay, we haven't really been successful in the past, I'll say 5-7 years. Do you think they say, okay, we're going to trade Jared Spurgeon, Jonas Brodin, Ryan Hartman, crazy good deal, by the way, crazy good contract. You think they say, all right, you know what, we're going to unload the older guys, bring back some prospects. They have a fantastic prospect pool as well. Marco Rossi, who else do they have?
Hayden
now?
Bankier, Hunter Height,
many
people.
They got a really good, what's just the Jesper Wallstedt. They have a good prospect pool. So I think not necessarily, I guess, a rebuild. I'll say more of a retool. I know that's such a stereotypical term, such a term that's always used, but I think they kind of retool.
I don't know. They've had the option to do that for the past few years, even before Dean Evason came. That was kind of on topic, on brand then as well, when the head coach switching in the 1920 season happened. But Spurgeon being the captain of this team, Brodin being pretty much a co-captain, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I would even label him as a captain on this team.
It's hard to move those guys.
Ryan Hartman, I don't see those guys. I think they have enough prospects right now to just wait it out and see how this happens over the next few years with these guys. Most of them have a long term left. Ryan Hartman just signed another extension, finally getting his payday with Minnesota. So I really don't think that these guys will be pressured to move out, or they'll feel pressure to get these guys out of the way. I think they'll kind of stick around for a bit. But that's not saying in a couple of years, if this does continue, or even next season, I don't think that anything will happen for the rest of this season. But next season, if something does fall apart again like it did this season, maybe. But I really don't think so, not yet. This Minnesota team is still definitely a playoff team. I think it's it has a major effect, the cap space does, on this team right now, and that's why.
Oh, that's a major factor.
Yeah, the buyout penalty from Parise and Suter, with that contract, with that cash, you could get any player in the league. So that's
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%.
does mean like 15, 16 million. You could easily get anybody in the league. So I think that they're gonna have to just suffer this out. I've said this for we've been talking about this for years. When that first happened, I was like, we're gonna have to suffer it out, but it will be worth it than having they would still be on the team now. So I think we're gonna wait on that and just see. But this team is hopefully gonna turn it around with John Hynes. I really don't think we will, but I think that it's a new opportunity, a new face behind the bench, new ideas. So hopefully we'll see some success from Minnesota in the next few weeks or so when everything gets dialed up. But that's all we got for this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, like I said at the beginning of the video. I know we're mainly Chicago Blackhawks content, but we'll be posting more stuff, any breaking news like this from around the league. But also this does have an effect on Chicago, so, make sure to listen to this video if you kind of skipped to the end. But yeah, no, in all seriousness, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day. Like the video if you haven't already as well. Subscribe. But yep, thank you for watching. See you later.